Okay, to carry on with the really the main theme of this summit, we have a guest presenter, probably the only outside cycling presenter we've had. This is Joan Powell. She's going to wear two hats today. In her first presentation, she's wearing the hat of the NCAA National Officials Coordinator. And later on, she's going to come back and wear the hat of a NASO Director. And I'm fairly impressed because since I cold called her about a month ago to be part of this, she's probably spent more time on our website studying the officials page than most of the officials in the room have. So she is now an expert cycling official as well as an expert in many other fields. But we're very pleased to have Joan here to tell us a little bit about team building from the perspective of somebody that knows a lot about other sports and a lot about building officials' crews. So thank you very much for joining us.
Tom, how is this? Good? Sweet. So I'm really happy to be here. I really am. This is a challenge because I knew nothing about your sport. But as I sat through many sessions yesterday, I realized, are you kidding me? Officiating is officiating. And I just met Jeff, whom I met a while ago in Minnesota, who's a volleyball official. Anybody do volleyball? Anybody else? Sweet. Dot? Long time ago. Okay, good. So I know what you're thinking. First of all, it's your third day. And you spent a lot of money getting here. And you want to glean from all these speakers and go back and share the wealth. And you're going, volleyball, really? Really? We got this volleyball gal. What's Sean doing? Oh, she's local, doesn't cost much. And when he first called me, cold call, he talked about NASO first, and I thought, oh my gosh, yeah. Well, do you have a budget? And he said, well, yeah. And I said, well, Bill Topp, he's the guy you got to get. You got to get him right out of Referee Magazine. He's an excellent speaker. He said, well, I was kind of thinking of you. And I went, oh, well, I do this, but it's in my own world. And I thought, well, I am kind of funny. All right, so I think I can entertain the troops, so that'll be good. But, you know, it's like I coached high school for 32 years. I taught PE and health for 30, and you're just going, oh, this better be good. And then on top of it, she puts Wizard of Oz on the title. It's like, oh, great, team building. We're going to have to hold hands and do some kumbaya stuff with the wizard. All right, so not really. I was very fascinated yesterday with the speakers, and what was interesting when Steve gave his presentation, I looked at mine and I thought, oh my gosh, it kind of dovetails. So you're going to get a little bit of Steve's stuff and maybe said differently. Management, love that. Leadership, great. But what the word that came to me 2 years ago when I assigned a national official to the big dance, the NCAA Division I watched this guy. I worked with him for years, and then I watched the way he included everybody. It didn't matter if it were the ball retrievers, the floor wipers, or the actual partner or crew that he works with, the score table or the line judges. This guy was fascinating to listen to. He's got this spiel he gives all the time, but he makes you feel like, I want to work for this guy. So after listening to Steve, I thought, sweet. And the word that came to me was inclusion 2 years ago. Now, to teach this is really difficult because some of you have it. Well, everybody here has it, but the people at home, may not, right? The people that you work with. Okay, so I want you to just play with me a little bit. And I'm going to tell you, my daughter's here because I had hip replacement surgery a month ago, and so I'm off the cane and not driving yet. But she said, Mom, whatever you do, don't just make sure you know where you're stepping. So usually I'm pretty engaging and I walk around and talk to people, but Tom has sequestered me, up here. So I'm going to do the best job I can. All right, so I want you to look at this picture and I want you to tell me whether or not this is a group or a team. Group or a team? A team. Who said team? Team? Who said group? Does it not? Really? Well, kind of the same, but also the time of the movie. Right? Very good. Okay. So in the beginning, actually a group. And so we're going to dissect this a little bit. Group right now, early, they're getting ready, meeting each other, and they're going to the wizard. So all are motivated to see the wizard. For what reason? Each have something that they want, that they don't have, and each member is challenged. So let's look at the crew. Scarecrow, Tin Man, Lion, Toto, and of course, Dorothy. So let's take each one by themselves. Scarecrow. There are two things that happened to the Scarecrow on the way to the wizard. What were those two things? The witch, of course, challenged him. What happened? Do you remember this? What was that? The ball of fire? That's the last thing the Scarecrow wants, right? Okay, ball of fire, and what else? He sent the monkeys, and they start tearing him apart. So here's what happens to the group. The group rallies around, right? They put them back together, and they also put the fire out. Good. So the group forgets their needs, helps the Scarecrow out. So in our world, in the volleyball world, this is what we see when we're challenged. Now, this could be a young lady at Texas that, where's my Texas gal? Where's Bonnie? Okay. This is a normal look that we get when we try. No, I'm kidding. So this gal is kind of going off probably on the first referee. My question to volleyball officials is always, if you're the second referee, how can you diffuse this? How can you put this fire out? How can you help your partner? If you're first referee, are you going to hope this goes away? Or are you going to have the courage to do something about it? So in your world, and remember, I'm Googling the heck out of cycling. And, okay, now this probably means something more to you. We're not allowed to talk about it now, are we? Because we just heard from Todd yesterday. And so, anyway. So then I kept Googling, kept seeing this guy, and then I saw this one, and I thought for sure that what he was saying was I should have been first. I'm sure that's what the first thing was, but not too sure. Okay, so that's your world. Now the Tin Man, what happens to the Tin Man? What do they have to help him with? Yeah, he's rusty, so they have to put oil on and they have to help him. So the group rallies to help him in his joint so he doesn't rust, right? So they responded to a need. In our world, we have coaches that are very needy. They're asking questions all the time. Maybe you have managers, maybe you have parents, maybe you have the athletes themselves that are kind of needy. So in your world, oh, here he is again. So how are you going to respond to this need? Again, are you going to hope it goes away or are you going to have courage to diffuse it? Maybe he's so needy that maybe ignoring is the best thing. Not too sure. Hope versus courage, I have said twice now. The National Hockey League person that's in charge of, like Sean is, in charge of the officials. You can imagine. How about that job? You think yours is tough? You kidding me? Hockey, okay? So this guy was fascinated, gave a session and gave us a great idea for our volleyball folks. And so we put a module together and clinicked our people last year about hope versus courage. You can't hope that things go away. You can't hope that somebody behaves better the next time you see them. You have to have the courage to do something, at least address it, if not penalize. And of course, that's your world, so I won't even touch that. The lion. Now, the lion's a different duck. Speaking of courage, doesn't have any. What's the lion's problem? He's a coward and he's a bully. So what happens? He kind of goes after everybody. I'll fight you with one hand behind my back. All that kind of stuff, right? And so who comes behind the tree? Toto's scared to death. Dorothy comes out. Remember, she slaps him? And she said, stop. And he starts to cry. And she says, oh, here, let me wipe your tears, you big baby. Do we work with people like this? Oh, yeah. And they put up a big wall, don't they? They're very defensive. It's a facade, is it not? Stop pointing, Todd. Gosh. It all comes out of fear, and many of us, it's okay if you do this. Many of us have fears when we go out to officiate, do we not? And so the fear might be the big race. You got to sign the big race. You got to sign with the big chief, okay? You might be first race ever or first time ever as an apprentice. Do all of you remember the first time you were assigned as an apprentice? Yeah? Were you scared spitless? Were the sprinklers on? Yeah, it's a scary time. New rules? Maybe there's some new rules you're not too sure about, even though you went to a seminar. Maybe it's a new position for you. Maybe you were assigned something that you have never done before. Because we always have a first time, don't we? Challenging participants, owners, sponsors, managers, race directors. Wow, I heard a lot about race directors. Holy smokers yesterday. Oh, all right. So we have fears, and it's how are we going to take care of that? This may happen to you. It has. And so what are you going to do? Hope versus courage. Well, let's see how far it escalates. Let's just see if they can duke it out. Or a race can go very smoothly, people very happy, and there's just an array of pictures on your, well, when I Google images on USA Cycling, there's just, wow, some great feel-good kinds of pictures. But then we have these people that always enter our lives, don't we? And somebody, who was it that said there's always a surprise? Nobody likes surprises as an official, but it happens, okay? Yeah. So let's move on. Toto, what happens to Toto? Gets stolen. Yeah. Okay, the witch sends what? The monkeys in, kidnaps Toto, and then what happens to the group? They start becoming a team. Why? Because their needs are no longer important. It's all about Toto. And they're motivated because Toto is defenseless, right? Yeah. Do you have sometimes some defenseless people within your crew? Maybe an apprentice under your wing. Under your tutelage, you're trying to teach these people how to be a great official in 5 minutes, right? And all of a sudden, something happens to them, and they're defenseless. Do you go to them? Do you act on courage? Or do you hope that it goes away? Your image and what you portray is so important to the youth. And it's the same thing in my world. I'm tired when I'm on my 9th match on court 63 and nobody cares except for moms and dads, right? And yet I want to recruit my people. I want to recruit these kinds of kids. I want them to go, wow, it looks kind of fun to be an official. Because I want to get my hooks in those kids. I do, because of when they're finished riding or they can continue to ride. How many of you have ever been a rider? Yeah, so you know what it's like. Absolutely. So here's the deal. I was at a tournament and I walked upon a court. I was going to do the next 2 matches. And I was watching this little line judge, and she was really good. She was probably 16, 17. And so in the junior world, there's a paid referee, first referee. Second referee is normally the coach. Sometimes when the coach doesn't want to do it, they have one of their players do it. And then they don't even have a whistle, and they hang on the pole and just kind of, there's just nothing, really. And then you've got 2 line judges, and then the whole score table are the kids. That's what they do. Because at this level, they can't afford to have a whole crew of officials. So I'm watching this line judge, and she is good. And I'm thinking to myself, and I always do, I'll go up after the match, and I'm going to tell her how good she is, and maybe she should be an official. So I'm watching her, and she's got the flag, and she's demonstrating all the signals and really kind of getting into it, just as we teach them when we brief them right before the match, because we want those parents to go, wow, she's pretty good. I didn't agree with her, but that looked pretty good. So I'm watching, and then all of a sudden, her team's going to play next, and so the score table gets a little more crowded with her team members. And they're all kind of sitting around. They start laughing at her. They start mocking her. And I'm thinking to myself, that's really rude. And the next thing I know, I look at her on how she's going to respond, and she flips them off. So I went, okay, so how do I respond? Hope that it goes away. Do I go tell her coach? Do I go get her in trouble? Do I go tell the tournament director? Do I sanction her for the next, which we really can't do, but, do I give her kind of a tongue lashing? I've taught for 30 some years, and so I'm going to go up and No, I'll tell you what I did. I waited till the match was over. She took her little flag, went over to the score table, put it down, shook hands with the first referee. Of course, all her little entourage was right there. And I said so they could hear, "You are very good. You're really a good official." And I said, "Are you going to play college?" And she said, "Yeah, I hope to. I hope to get a scholarship." And I said, "Well, good for you. When you're finished playing, I think you should officiate." And of course, and she's like, looking right down. And then I just said, because I had to say something. I said, "But you know what? I didn't recognize one signal." So she just went, oh, and all the kids started to laugh. Now, I reprimanded her, didn't I? I got my point across, and I certainly didn't have to get her in trouble. But she was good. Okay, so I heard Dot talk about parents, and it made me just laugh out loud because this is already in my speech prepared to talk a little bit. I could do 4 hours on parents, by the way. People ask me, "Oh, Joan, do you miss teaching? Do you miss coaching?" Absolutely. Miss the kids, miss competition. I miss practice, but I don't miss the parents. How many of your parents? Yeah, you're killing me. Okay. So am I, and of course I was kennel blind too. My kid was the best. But my ultimate goal in life is to coach in an orphanage. Okay? Get it? If the person next to you is not laughing, just kind of go, "No parents." Okay. They can kill you. Absolutely kill you. Can they not? Yeah. And in your world, I'm not too sure because I'm not so close to it, but you just want to go, "Really?" So here's what I say when I teach coaches. Sometimes you just want to say to a parent, "What's your name, sir?" Maren? Yeah, I did. Can I get somebody with like a Joe or... No, I'm kidding. All right, Maren. Here's the deal. I want to be able, as an official, since you're jumping into my world, because I cross the boundary all the time, tell me I'm blind, that I'm not very good, and so forth. And I want to be able to tell you, your daughter, Maren, is Marissa. Okay? And you know what? She's not very good. That's what I want to say. And I want to say you're wasting a lot of money in club volleyball. What you should be doing is piano. Okay? Try piano. She gets a one-on-one, all good. You spend as much, you go to the recitals, you go, ooh, you film it and do whatever you want. But I tell you what, volleyball, you're wasting your money. That's what I'd like to say sometimes. But you can't do that, can you? No. And you'd like to do the same thing with coaches or managers and tell them how to do their job because they're telling us how to do our job. But you can't. Okay, so let's move on. Dorothy. What happens to Dorothy, of course? Now the members are so motivated because they want to get Dorothy to go home, right? They want to make sure that the individual needs are no longer important because the most important thing is that Dorothy gets home. Cool? So they are now a team. The group transforms into a team, just like us. Just like us as officials, there's a transformation sometimes. If you work with an individual that's chief referee and brings that inclusion thing, you're like, yeah, and you feel like you're part of the team, right? Because you know what? The athletes are part of a team. Really, they've got people supporting them. And so our crew should feel the same way. It's the third team in the sport. This little conclave right here is probably prior to a race. Is that right? Maybe? Yeah? Or maybe we got trouble in River City. No, but most likely they're talking about what's going to happen in the event, and that's great. And so hopefully there's a lot of mentoring, Dot, going on right here. And as Steve brought out, hey, we got to make sure people feel good. What are their needs? So back to inclusion, we must have the ability to, and this is to reiterate what Steve was saying, include all team members. We need to lead. We need to know when to lead, and we need to know when to follow. If you're chief last week and you're not this week, I wish this was a signal in volleyball. I'd like to do that to a coach. Coach. All right, we need to read situations. There are going to be some surprises, but certainly we have to kind of feel that something is escalating or something I may have to diffuse. Or we need to make sure we have the ability to be coached, and we have to do some coaching as well. That's why you're here. You're going to bring all this information home, and you're going to be the coach. We need to collaborate. We heard that word yesterday. And brief and debrief. We do the same thing in volleyball. It's very important to have everybody on the same page before we do an event, and then come together at the end and debrief so everybody learns. And of course, there's a skill to that. All right, so titles can hang you up in your sport and in my sport. So it doesn't matter what you're assigned to. It's just a different job description, correct? It's the same thing. If I'm first referee on Friday night, Saturday night at Penn State, I might be second referee, and I have to be a good team member. Chief referee has a built-in expectation to include the entire team. Heard that yesterday. Each has distinct responsibilities to the race and to the event because it's not all about you. You ever seen this? No. And I learned this. I actually called Diane Fortini. Hi, Diane. Sorry you couldn't make it. But I talked to her for about an hour. And she talked to me about, all kinds of things in your sport. But anyway, it was great. I just want to make sure I was on the right page. But she talked about observe it, record it, and report it. And that's probably no news to you, but I really like that. I used to hand this quote out to my parents. And there was a parent in Denver, a basketball coach, guys team, and he used to have his meeting with his parents and athletes. And he says, you know what? I know what all of you want. You want me to pick the 4 best guys and your son. Is that right? Now, cycling's a little different. It's like track. It's like wrestling. It's like tennis, those individual sports. You have a stopwatch. You have a timing device. You have a chip or whatever I learned yesterday. And you know what? You're good. You're not. Done. But team sports, anybody coached a team sport? Anybody? Did you coach your kid? That's deadly. Yeah, see? Yeah. All right, so here's what I would hand out. People felt good, beginning of the season, oh yeah, that's kind of good. This is a quote, I watched Leonard Bernstein, the famous orchestra conductor, perform one evening on television. During an informal discussion on the program, I recall one admirer asked, Mr. Bernstein, what is the most difficult instrument to play? He responded with quick wit. Second fiddle. I can get plenty of first violinists, chief referees, but to find one who plays second violin with as much enthusiasm or second French horn or second flute, now that's a problem. And yet, if no one plays second, we have no harmony. Cool? Isn't that cool? It's a great quote. Yeah. So it worked like the first week, and then once you start to compete, parents are going, why isn't my kid playing? Now, we have people, of course not in this room, at home, that think they're all that. Do you know what I mean? Right? So, who said it? Who said that?
All hat, no cattle.
All hat, no cattle. Bonnie, have you heard that? No? Well, you can borrow it. Okay. So you know what I'm talking about. These are the folks that 100% on their test. They are at every seminar. They're the ones that ask all the questions. Do you ever get those Stump the Stars people? It's like, really? Shut up. Okay, really. Go look it up. Don't ask me. But these people just come out of the woodworks, don't they? And they're in every officials group. Not here. But they just kill you after a while. They've got all the swag, they got all the memorabilia, and they lie about all the events they've done and so forth. And who was the gentleman in the back row? Sir, I don't know your name, right next to Todd. The one he pointed at. What's his name? Dan the man. Dan, you said something about time for a saddle. Didn't you say that yesterday? That was you. What's your name? What's your name? Randy. I love that. So I put it right in my presentation because I'm going to take that. Time for a saddle. That was a great line. All right. So I listened to Bonnie and I listened to Jim yesterday talk about National Official of the Year, and that's great. We need to recognize people. But sometimes I asked Diane what it was like. I said, is there jealousy within your ranks? And, because there is in our world. I mean, people get certain assignments or get certain awards, and it's like, it's nothing but schmoozing going on there. That's why they got it. So I just thought it was really cool, though, that once I got on the website, I realized that Diane Fortini, where's James Abbott? Hi, James. Are you connected to Dot? No? Yes? They just don't sit together. Nice. Okay. Whatever. I don't have time. Okay. So, James, I did not call you. Sorry. But I did call Diane. We spent about an hour on the phone. It was fabulous. Here's what was in the press release from Sean, our fearless leader. Attitude, people skills, experience, and attention to details. That's why. No schmoozing. Good person. She gave me a plethora of information. She was fabulous. Professionalism was touched on a little bit yesterday. I want to tell you about this line judge. Who is that right there? Sweet. I met you, Ellen. Nice. So, see this line judge right here? I'm going to share this story with you. First time in the big dance. Division I National Championship. Penn State's going for their 4th in a row. Anyway, he's doing lines. He is very good. In the semifinal analysis, the next day, in front of all of his peers, all of the officials are up on a dais talking about mistakes they made, good calls they made, why did you do this, why did you do that? They say it's more scary being in front of the peers than doing the national championship. So Luis was asked the question, what was it like being in the first dance? And he goes, I tell you what, in his little Puerto Rican accent, he says, I've been to Bosnia, I've been to Desert Storm, I've been to Iraq, I have been to Afghanistan on 2 tours. I was more nervous here than any place in the country. I mean, in the world. He said it was unbelievable. And his little knees were just shaking, but he was very good. But how fun to be so humble and to share that with us. I bet you have a story, Ellen. So cute. Very professional. And look at her little smile, too. Nice? Okay. I'm going to touch on 4 things right now. Impression, perception, reputation, and reflection. All has to do with professionalism. So impressions. I had an impression yesterday of U.S. cycling. Good. Good impression, Sean. I had an impression of your headquarters. Fabulous. I had an impression of the summit. Great. Great that we can all come together and share, and you can go home and share some more. USA cycling officials, you know what? You're just like us. Officials are officials. We're nutcases. We're kind of OCD. We are. We just are. Why do you want to do this? People say to me, oh, I love it. I love it. Oh, it must be the power. No, it's not. I am kind of a control freak sometimes. All right. So, I had an impression of this guy yesterday. I don't know. Look at the body language. He's just going to, no. He did a great job. Very impressed with him. This speaker, impressed? Yeah? First impression? Very good. Very good. Very difficult subject matter. Wow. Dry, Todd, but you know what? You made it. And you have to. Sad part about it is we have to have these documents. And then I watched all of you. And you know what? I could just put names of people that I know in volleyball because we've got every one of you in our group. Really. Isn't that a great picture with that guy? This is such a fabulous wall. It didn't come out very well, but that's all right. Okay, so let's move on. You never get a second chance to make a good first impression, right? As the old adage goes. Riders, race directors, assigners, owners, sponsors, promoters, and even spectators all have a certain level of expectation for our officials. Each of us responsible for things within our own control. Not what our chief referee is doing. Not what, maybe isn't my bailiwick with this spectator, because somebody else is already dealing with them. It's what's within, what can I control? Communication skills experts say it takes just a quick glance, maybe 3 seconds, for someone to evaluate you when you meet for the first time. 3 seconds. Bam. I met Mimi. Where's Mimi? Very nice. She was very nice to me yesterday. And I met Mike. Where's Mike? Where's Mike? No. Mike with the rule book. Mike, loan me his rule book. There he is right there. Yeah, thanks. That was very nice. Wow, the rule book. Whew, okay. All right. Now, this is pretty obvious. No-brainer. Employers screen by resumes, references, actual email addresses. Oh, guy's going for an administrative job in a high school. Okay, he's a teacher. You know what his email address is? gonefishing@yahoo.com. So what do you think? What do you think Fridays are like? Okay, this administrator's going, next. Quotes at the end of the email, really? Okay. Facebook page, we already talked about the whole social media thing, but this is scary. I mean, employers are now looking on people's Facebooks. Oh, there's even, some lawsuits involved and so forth. Sometimes they come in for an interview and have them get right on. Twitter account and so forth. All right, first impressions can nearly impossible to reverse or undo. You ever just like, oh, if I just had another chance. I really didn't mean that. Initial impressions are strengthened by exposure, and sometimes you hope to see a writer again. Maybe you had a little tete-a-tete. No, I could have handled that better. And you hope for another event to maybe kind of smooth things out. See the picture below? Where's Shawnee? Just left. All right, so I put this picture down here earlier because we're facilitators, not police officers, right? And we have to get that across to some of our little mentees. And then when I saw the picture of Sean yesterday with this quote, carrying the heat, I just laughed out loud. So, Steve, I wanted to borrow that picture, but I couldn't get it from you. All right, so we'll move on to perceptions. You'll give it to me? Okay. Impressions are made, perceptions follow, and once the perceptions are made the second time, it's either validated or what happens is another opinionated is formulated. Difficult to change an opinion sometimes. Our cadre of officials don't help us out, do they? Because you know what? It's all about the yak and the gossip and why I didn't get this assignment and why did she always do that. We just hurt each other. Remember, some people find fault like there is a reward for it. And this is my favorite. This was on my bulletin board all the time that I taught and coached. You ready? Some people will complain about the pattern on their magic carpet. Really, you just have those people. And how about this? The wicked witch was framed, right? The conspiracy theorists. Reputation versus character, the best way to characterize this is John Wooden's quote, your reputation is who people think you are, but your character is who you really are. You think about that, okay? Some of you certainly made some mistakes early on, and your reputation was out there, and maybe you curbed it, maybe you had the right mentor, and hey, Sean, I just want to share something with you because this is really funny. Some people find fault like there's a reward for it, or some people will complain about the pattern on their magic carpet. You can have those. All right, so let's go to reflection a little bit. How did you do last race? How did you do in the last race? The last race that you were involved in, how did you do? Did you do a little self-evaluation? How did you do last season? Total. I have a guy, when I officiate with him, he's fabulous. And he took a napkin and took a pen and just wrote down, and he did a graph. He said, well, we went along, we had a really good briefing with the coach, and everything went, and then do you remember when we made that call? And then everything went smooth, and oh, you handled that coach really well, and we did this. So he graphs the whole thing. Graph your season. Interesting. All right, are you willing to make changes? Your mentor has suggested, your chief referee, maybe something in your little conclave of officials at a race suggested some things to you. Are you willing to make a change? Are you keeping yourself from being a good communicator? Are you keeping yourself from being a good crew member or moving on to the next level? Too easy to blame other people. Too easy to blame your assigner. You maybe need to reflect like that little kitty. How many of you have ever been involved with the Paralympics? Holy smokers. See, just when you think you're all that, You know, really? Really? And then you got this? Wow. It's just fascinating to me. How about this? I just learned this from 60 Minutes this Sunday, I think. Ride to Recovery. Anybody know anything about this? Yes? Yes? Is it statewide or is it a national event? National event. Okay. So making a difference in the lives of the wounded warriors. Wow. Again, are you kidding? Yeah. Wounded warriors? Anybody been involved? I was with volleyball and sitting volleyball. And this just, Ashley, my daughter, was involved as well. And you just, first of all, the competitiveness is unbelievable. Those Marines, sorry. Who's a Marine in here? Are you kidding? He's like, sir, it's a different breed, okay? It's a fraternity all its own. But I'll tell you what, they had a, oh of course. But a 4-star general came in, flew all night, came in from Afghanistan, and sat with his athletes. And I'm not kidding, I just started crying. I was taking pictures, and these soldiers sitting on the floor with no limbs, just in awe of this 4-star general. It was, yeah, you need to do things like this. And there are plenty more. This one is kind of interesting. Anybody ever been involved in the Police Unity Tour? I believe they go from Virginia to Washington, D.C., and I think they're sponsored. How are we doing on time? We good? Okay. Sponsored by their local chapters, if you will. They get sponsorship money and so forth. And the picture in the middle happens to be my brother-in-law and from Arizona, and so he's a sheriff. And I'm going to tout on him a little bit because this is another kind of feel-good thing that you just need to put things in perspective. His best buddy on the SWAT team in Tucson's son, 14 years old, on dialysis, needed a kidney. Scott, his dad, thought, hey, you know what? I think I'm a match. Everything's good. And then all of a sudden, test came back, not good. But there was somebody that came through. And so Scott called my brother-in-law, Terry, and said, hey, I think it's one of our SWAT members. You got to find out who it is. So Terry said, oh, I'll find out for you. 5 minutes later, he called Scott back and said, yep, it's a SWAT member, but he doesn't really want anybody to know. You kidding? It was Terry. 14-year-old. I got to go and get to see the surgery. Here's this gorgeous young Korean doctor, female, comes in. Hey, how's everything going? And I said to her, hey, I did this to my doctor on the hip thing too. I said, hey, do you have a family? And she said, oh, yes, I have 2 kids under 3. And I said, no whooping cough tonight, right? I mean, you're not going to be up or anything because we had a 6 a.m. surgery, on my brother-in-law's kidney, really? And she go, oh, no, I'm fine. The kids are fine, and that's great. But this guy is my hero. Are you kidding me? And so Zach is now a senior at University of Arizona in pharmacy. That's just great. Anyway, so that's my little tale. Right after this, after my NASO session, I'm driving with my husband to go see the whole family in San Diego. So how about that hip, huh? Every 2 hours. Okay, I'm really looking forward to it. Oh, I don't want to ruin this. So here's the deal. We get these feel-good things, and we need to do this every now and then because we think what we do is the most important thing, and of course it is. All right, I get it. But we take ourselves sometimes way too seriously. So at the end of the day, at the end of what we do, when I hang up my whistle, it doesn't matter how many national championships I have refereed. It doesn't matter how many little mentees I've had under my wing. It doesn't matter that I happen to go to Beijing as the team leader for USA women's volleyball team. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, this is what I'll be playing or reffing. Correct? Is it right? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Cutie patooties. Okay, and in your world? Right? Sure. Just a couple trips around the courtyard, honey, and that's it. So I think maybe Bonnie and Jim I mean, Bonnie and, yeah, Jim in this photo are doing pretty well. Okay, so, I'm just kidding you. Or, if you're not going to be able to cycle, then certainly you're going to be able to be on the sidelines cheering people on. Is that correct? Are they from the home, honey? Yeah. Good. They let you out. All right, that's good. So, in conclusion, I know that I'm a little early, Tom, but in conclusion, it really is all about inclusion. Hey, but Tom, in order to end this right, you got to go get Sean, because here he comes. Good. All right, good. So, remember, yeah, team rather than group. Good luck. And I'm going to date myself here. How many remember the police show, Hill Street Blues? Do you remember it? Did you love it? See, look at the age. You guys are getting kind of nervous. All right, and the youngers are going, I never even heard of it. Yeah. So in Hill Street Blues, what did the detective do? The sergeant. At the very end, what did he do? He gave the assignments, and then he said what? And hey, let's be careful out there. Oh, maybe I got that right. So, hey, let's be careful out there because you never know what your challenge is. Maybe she may come to haunt you, right? Last but not least, I would like Sean to come forward because I have something for you. I have a T-shirt. I heard this at the NASO Summit, and I used it in a clinic, and one of the participants went crazy, and he's a T-shirt guy. Without officials, it's just recess. Thank you.
That was wonderful.
Thanks. Okay. Sean's going. There was some laughter. There was some clapping. It's all good. Yeah. So I don't know. I see some microphones, but I certainly can entertain any kind of questions you might have. Okay, thanks. It was great. No. It's all about timing. Okay, so anybody have any kind of questions about my world or your world? Or how was last night? Good? Y'all behave yourselves? Nah, I don't want to hear about it. All right. So, anything? Yes?
I'd just like to say thank you. This was a great presentation, and I think we all learned a lot. And I love The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, I know. When I first gave this, actually, I heard a coach give this about team versus group. And so then I was writing madly, and I thought, oh, I could do this for officiating. So when I presented it, it happened to be in Ohio. We have 27 clinics throughout the country, and you have to attend in order to be considered for postseason play. But anyway, I was presenting it in Ohio, and this guy came up to me because we really got in groups. I said to Sean before, I said, hey, Sean, I mean, are they kind of touchy-feely? Can we get them in groups? Well, I don't like icebreakers. And I thought, that's my best thing, okay? Oh, trust me, if you ask me back, I got some icebreakers you'll love. But I thought, okay, maybe I just better behave myself and I'll give the answers on Toto and Dorothy and the Tin Man and so forth. So, but in our world, we actually had people get in groups and kind of discuss this Wizard of Oz. And this guy came up to me when they were in groups and he goes, okay, this is a big strapping official, probably middle age. And he goes, Joan, I just have to tell you something. I've never seen the film through its entirety. And he said, my brother and I would hide under the bed. And he said, so you know what I did? I went home and I got a copy and I sent it to him. And he wrote me back. He said, I watched the whole thing. It's a great movie. I said, well, good for you, you 50-year-old. All right, what else? You're going to be afraid to ask questions now.
Joan, also, I'd like to say thank you. Should we consider going to the NASO Summit?
Oh, yeah, that's a nice. Oh, hello. Sorry, those of you that were asleep. Oh, yeah, and and I don't mean to correct Sean or anybody else in here, but I do need to tell you it is NASO, and they're really big on that. It's not NASO. And it's just like NCAA is not NICA. All right. So I realize that it has pronouns and vowels and stuff, but really, I think maybe because of NASA or something. I don't know what, but anyway, they're real big on, they'll correct you all the time. So fix yourself, will you? But yes, seriously, I'm going to do that in my next session, but it's fabulous. The summit is, and you know what? They never breathed a word for like 10 years, volleyball. Nobody said anything, but I gleaned. Oh my gosh. It's very good, very good. So I'll talk about that in my next one. What else? Anything? Good. Are we good? Sweet. Hey, is the boss here?
He'll be here very soon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, any hints on short-term team building?
Oh, short.
Because,
Oh.
you know, we're together for a day. And what do we do?
Oh, sure. Repeat the question.
Any hints on short-term team building? Because we're together for a day in most cases. And
Okay, so you have no preliminary anything.
right. We show up at 8 o'clock in the morning. We start to work at 9.
Right.
And we're done at 6.
Yeah. That's a short day. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What are you complaining about? No. All right. So you know what? I don't have a Band-Aid for that yet, but I will tell you, team building, and that I know was in the in my little blurb on the title of my presentation, but team building, especially coaching high school kids, was huge because here's the deal. When it comes down to it, volleyball is the vehicle, especially with the youth. It's just a vehicle. We're teaching them so much more. And so I went on, how many from Colorado Springs? So have you ever been on the Spectacular, Starlight Spectacular? Oh, it's the best thing ever. So I've been for the last, 10 years. But when I first started it, I took all of my seniors and varsity kids, and we did that team building. It's a midnight ride. Starts at midnight, Garden of the Gods. Are you kidding me? See, you didn't think I'm a writer. Oh, yeah. I've got the T-shirt. Are you kidding? For 10 years. But anyway, that thing was just, it was the best. But I want to tell you something about your world, and I'm not answering your question, but too bad. Here, so I tell my brother-in-law, I said, you've got to bring your bike. And of course, he's got all the bells and whistles. He's got everything. When we ride together, we hear this on your left, and we move over, and he goes, oh, they're sponsored. You know, they got all the gear and stuff. But anyway, he's quite the cyclist. But I said, you've got to go to this midnight ride. It's going to kick your butt to go up that Garden of the Gods. And sure enough, it did. But I was shocked with my little Schwinn the first time. When I took my little bike, and I put the kickstand down, and I see all these cyclists throwing their bikes down. I'm like, it's the rudest thing I've ever seen. I couldn't believe it. So I tell my brother-in-law, and he goes, Joan, there's no kickstands on us. All right, so now I'm dating myself, and now I have a giant. How about me? Oh yeah, I'm all that. Okay, I didn't answer your question. I have to think on that. What's your name? Tom, I'm going to get back with you on quick remedy stuff. See, I do icebreakers. You'd love me if I were your chief referee.
One of the advantages that we have locally is that we have a bunch of people that we work with regularly. And so everybody kind of knows what the hierarchy is. And if you're the chief, you've worked with us 6 or 8 times. So that's one way that we already build the team.
Sure, absolutely. It's already built in because of the camaraderie you have built. But do you have somebody in your team that you just, there's no working around that person. Yeah. You want to say to the Assignor, can we just have a break here with Tom? Can we put him with somebody else for him? Huh? Come on. I paid my dues in purgatory. Let's just, smokers, there's so much mentoring you can do, huh, Dot? Yeah. Okay. Anybody? See, I'm better at living. Kidding. Stand-up comic. No.
Well, thank you very much.
I
that
loved
was
being here, Sean.
awesome.
Thanks for asking me.